Hi, my name is Asida Kofi Ayebampo, and I'm the research engineer for Scan Technology. And this is
My name is Somto Chukwemeka Oneme, and I'm the CTO at Stance Technologies.
yeah. So today we have a project that we developed and come up with and would like to speak um, about. Yeah. So to begin with, let me start with the research. A paper that was written by Albert Donko de Vries and then Kwabena Nako, which is the assessment of heavy metal pollution in the in the river Pra, and in the Pra basin of Ghana. Right. So in 2017, they held a research and took 216 samples of water from 17 sampling points of the Pra River, and then they found out that about nine metals, of which iron, cadmium, lead, and zinc were a part of. And according to the let me see, the safety guidelines for drinking water, even five of these metals is enough. Five of these metals doesn't make the water good enough for domestic practices such as drinking and then water. So here in Ghana, we know we have lots of issues in our Galamsey and then how metals affect our water bodies. So here at Stance Technology, we came up with a technology titled Nsu Guard, where we use the technology of bioremediation to make sure that our waters are safe again for drinking. So now just a bit about bioremediation. Bioremediation is the use of microbes, or let me say microorganisms, to let me say bring back the efficiency or make our waters good to use after they've been polluted. So bioremediation is used in a lot of situations like when crude oil has spilled in water bodies. But in our case, we are thinking of taking the metals out of the water bodies. So I'll leave the stage to Emeka to speak more about the technology.
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I read a paper about how biologists in South America use microorganisms to help curb plastic pollution and other types of pollution in that area. And I had been thinking of a way to apply that into the context of West Africa. Being in Nigeria, I've witnessed on news stories how crude oil spills have affected people in the Niger Delta. And coming to Ghana, I've also seen a similar problem with Galamsey and gold mining pollution. The idea was to try and create a software that does the following. The first is to try and create a software that can match the gene sequences of the bacterial cultures we would use for bioremediation to the metal resistance genes provided by Gothenburg University's BACMET, which is a database of such resistance genes. So far, we've been able to sequence five bacteria to their metal resistance genes and identify five metals for which they will be able to successfully remediate. We have also expanded the software to cover things like deployment. We created a spatial temporal model, which is a partial differential equation, to accurately predict the level of concentration of the metal in the water at a particular time, as well as the level of bacterial biomass in the water at a particular time. We considered all the vector spaces in the water, modeling it as a 3D space, and we're able to predict the concentration at every particular point in the water. The model helps researchers and biologists effectively predict what bacterial culture is suitable for the presence of certain metals in the water, as well as how they should deploy the bacterial cultures in the water for successful bioremediation. Currently, the software has been simulated to consider a water body of about 200,000 milligrams of these heavy metals. We tested it against a water body with 100 meters of length, 100 meters of breadth, and 20 meters of depth. And we've been able to successfully identify how long it will take for that water body polluted by that amount of metal, how long it will take for us to apply bioremediation processes to successfully clean out that water body. Now behind me, we have one of the simulations that we ran successfully. We ran a simulation for about 100 days and we wanted to test how far we would go in terms of the remediation. So the software we used for this was built on Python, but we're using a special library called PyVista to be able to visualize this in 3D mode. So here we have the metal concentration, and this is just the 3D view. We have the time of the simulation, which is 100 days, and the metal concentration after the simulation, as well as the total biomass. But we still see that the state is above limits. So in the software, one thing we did was to add the WHO guidelines for the safe limits for these metals in water. And we ran the software to be able to predict whether or not you've been able to successfully remove these metals according to WHO standard. Here as well, we have the growth of the bacterial biomass over 100 days. And we see that we have quite good growth, particularly in the central regions where it's kind of high, which is good because we don't also want a situation where the bacteria affects any natural life forms in the water. Currently, we are also developing the software to adapt other things like AI prediction for setting parameters automatically. And Asida will talk more about how we are applying that.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the case where we all understand that aside we using the water for domestic purposes, there are also living organisms in the water, and then we know that when you implement or apply microorganisms in the water for a long time, we have something like let me say oxygen depletion levels, right? So in this aspect, which are in our data models, we'll be coming up with we'll be taking oxygen level into consideration and also pH level, so that the let me say the acidity of, like, we won't have increased acidity. We just have a basic pH level for that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of our future research. We also have to consider things like the release rate. You don't want to release these metals because when the bacteria absorbs the metals into its periplasm and the bacteria dies, it releases these metals as nuggets, which you can then use like an industrial vacuum to remove out of the water body. However, we don't want to release these metals at such a rate that it affects the fishes and other organisms in the water bodies. So the models that we're coming up with subsequently will be able to account for that and also account for things as I've mentioned, like salinity, oxygen levels, as well as the pH.
pH. Yeah.
So that's what we've done currently. If you are a policymaker or someone that's interested in solving this Galamsey problem and you have any thoughts on our approach, kindly reach out to us. We're looking for biologists to partner with who can help us run some of these simulations in the laboratory so that we can see the effectiveness of our theoretical models. Thank you for watching and follow our page to keep updated with what we are building as Stance Technologies.
See.